All right.
Okay, so this is the Nantucket Commission on Disability at 3:33 on March 14th with our scheduled meeting. I'm going to read the script quickly. This is a Zoom meeting which allows public to participate. So I'm just going to, I'm kind of skipping through this. So we're going to identify who's present. My name is Mickey Rowland. When I call your name, just say I, Mary Beth.
Aye.
Okay,
Right
Augie
here. Aye.
and Georgia.
Here. Oh, I hear right here.
Georgia's muted, but she's here.
Oh, thanks. Sorry about that.
There you are.
There you go.
Okay. And we have our facilitator, Brenda McDonough.
Aye.
And nobody else at the moment. Hopefully Jeanette will join us. So this is the open meeting of the Nantucket Commission on Disability, being conducted remotely pursuant to the Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. Well, it would if there was public, but there's no public here. And for this meeting, Commission on Disability is convening by video conference via Zoom. And I'm going to skip the rest. It's all stuff you've heard before. I think that's all we need to do is mostly get the attendance. So on with our agenda, which is called to order. I'm going to adopt the agenda as it's written unless anybody has any changes to it. And there's no public for public comment. We do have minutes to approve from previous sessions.
I sent them out late. I don't know if you guys got them, had a chance to read them or not, just so. I only sent them out around 3 o'clock today.
We can wait if anybody has any concerns, or we can approve them right now if we want to. Any thoughts?
I say approve them.
Okay, I'll take that as a motion to approve the minutes of February 22nd. Is there a second to that?
I second.
George is seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Done. Okay, the main reason we're here today is to discuss the changes that we're proposing to make to the Nantucket taxi regulations. Where this came up at our last meeting, I believe. And Brenda and I sent the request to the town administration to see if they would.
Nikki, can I correct you that? It didn't come up at last meeting. It came up since the last meeting. What happened is, so there's 4 accessible taxi license. One KCK has, the second one, this woman, Tanya, she's just waiting for the purchase of her accessible vehicle, which she's gonna buy Bob Hickman's vehicle that was here on Nantucket. So she's just waiting for all the paperwork to go through. So she's gonna have the second license. So there's 2 other licenses out there and they send them out to everyone on that. I think this is how they do it. They send it out to everybody on the taxi cab waiting list. And if you want it, even to say, like, if you're last on the list, but you want an accessible taxi cab, you can get the accessible taxi cab. Whoever has the most seniority that answers the request for to become a driver will get the licenses. So far, no one else has answered them. And one of the things is, okay, now Mickey, you can take over.
As I'm looking for the email you sent me to that brings up all the things we're talking about, and I'm about to find it. Here we go.
Yep.
Oops, no, it's not it.
Nikki and I were having a conversation, like, okay, so do we think the rules are too stringent? And back in 2012, when these bylaws where these regulations for accessible cab were adopted, the commission is the one that came up with all the rules that they wanted to have in place, all the regulations. So at the time, there was one accessible taxi cab and one accessible taxi cab operator, but he had multiple employees working for him. So we said that cab has to be on demand 7 days a week, 18 hours a day, because you have multiple employees. Well, that regulation is still valid right now. And we think it's like too restrictive. It just, I think that it really, like, people, they're like, well, I can't be, if I'm going to operate the cab myself, I can't be on demand 7 days a week, 18 hours a day. I mean, that's virtually, they're not doing it now anyway. So we thought if we relax the rules do you want to take over now, Mickey?
I'm still looking for that.
Okay.
The Word, do you know when you sent me that Word document? I want to put it up on the screen.
I sent an email out yesterday with all the taxi cab regulations on it, Mickey.
Okay,
They
that
were in
was-
the body of the email. They weren't, I missed the 11:55 ferry by a half a second yesterday. And so I had 3 hours to spare. I
Got
said,
it.
yeah, I'll just send this out now, okay?
Can you leave that open? In other words, does it have to have a days and hours per day at all?
So what we're proposing, Mickey, do you have it?
I do, so I'm gonna try to pull it up on the, I'm gonna try to share it.
Georgia, what we're trying
I
to
have it.
propose, instead of saying 7 days a week, 18
Right.
hours a day, we're
Right.
saying that it has to be year round. You got to provide year round service. Therefore, you're not going to go away for 3 months in the wintertime, more or less, you know?
Okay, all right. Okay, that's good. Hey, I already had mine. Thank you, Mickey. Okay,
So you've got this, do you see my screen with these numbers
now
on?
I do. Yes, yes, I
Yeah.
do. Yep, we got it.
Okay.
So that makes a lot more sense, actually.
Yep.
I
So
think that's a good idea.
So Brenda, did we come up with a suggestion, or did you
Yeah.
just provide us with the current
no,
regulation?
I'm just giving you the what the
Number 2,
regulations are now. In the first email that I sent out, Mickey, I mentioned that we want to change. I think even in that we want to change. I think in the body of the email, Mickey, that I sent out, like, not even just the regulations, up above.
Well, it's,
Yeah, well,
this is what we want to change right here, isn't it?
exactly, number 2.
Yep. Is that all we talked about?
Yeah,
Just,
that is all we talked about, but we want to change that. We would like to change that to must provide service year round, so people won't leave the island in the wintertime and not have the accessible cab on the road. But the reason why I sent out all the regulations like this, I copied them from the town's website, is because I figured that maybe if people wanted to look at them, and if they thought that something needed changing or needed adding, we can do it also. So
yes, so this is really it. I mean, the regulations are
Right.
they're pretty good, actually. They're pretty
I thought
involved.
so,
They describe what we're looking for, and
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, one thing we're not really good at, haven't been lately, is inspecting cabs.
we inspected them last year, Mickey, last
Did we?
summer. Yeah, you and I, KCK came with their taxi, and his name is Ken. He came with his taxi,
That's
and
right.
that's when we found out that Bob Hickman wasn't going to renew his accessible taxi license, and his sister Nancy. So, and that's when we found out that Headley Bowen is no longer providing service either. So
Currently, we only have one regularly operating license, correct?
correct. We hope to have a second one very, very soon. I saw
And-
Tanya the other day. She works for another taxi company, and she said, Brenda, she was just waiting for the title to come back from Florida. I think Val Ryder name was on the title to the vehicle that she's buying, and she is in Florida, so they were sending it to Florida, and they were waiting for her to sign the document and send it back. So that's where she kind of is right now.
Mhm. And there's available 4 potential licenses, right?
2 licenses out there, correct?
But don't we have the ability to have 4?
Yes, there's 2 licenses now, and there's 2 licenses still that we would like to fill.
Yes.
Correct.
So I guess the idea being that if we don't have such onerous restrictions on the operating hours, that more people would be interested in getting them. So, I mean, they still have to have an accessible vehicle. They have to advertise. So the only thing we want to relax is the number of hours per day and the number of days per the year, really.
Per week, yeah. What about, do we have, from the guy who's been doing it, an idea of how many times he is, asked to provide, taxi service, accessible taxi service? Have we asked him to keep track so we know how many people we're talking about?
Great
No,
question.
no, we don't have that information, and I think he operates as a regular taxi also.
Right.
And so, no, I don't have that information at all.
I just wonder if that wouldn't be useful in the future for us to at least have some idea of, how many people are actually using it, as to whether or not we would need to really push to get more than 2.
Well, I think one reason to have more than 2 is that if people do, like, if some people might want to work the weekends, some people may not want to work the weekends. I think you just have more availability of more
But yeah,
accessible
definitely.
taxis on the road. And I think that, and they operate the same as a regular taxi too, they just happen to be able to accommodate a wheelchair.
Right, right. No, I understand, but if if we had people willing to let us know just how many people, take advantage of it and use it, it might be helpful information for us at least sometime in the future.
Okay.
I agree. In fact, I think maybe we should put this in our rules that they keep track of their accessible required rides.
Yeah.
I don't think it would hurt us to know, to have some idea, just who's using it, how many are using it.
Mhm.
I don't know. It just seems to me it would be useful information at some point anyway.
So I hadn't really thought of it from this direction till now, but if we really relax this restriction, what is to prevent somebody from getting an accessible license? And I guess they still need to have the proper vehicle, but they could just operate in the summer. They could just operate it there whenever they feel like it.
Yeah.
So
we
maybe
don't
we
have
do
any
need
way
to
of
be
checking.
more restrictive than just saying, well, you did say year round, but what does that mean, year round?
Maybe you
Yeah.
put in there that you cannot be, you have to be operating year round, and you can't be off the road more than like 2 weeks at any given time or something, because you got to think that you're going to take a vacation, right?
Exactly. That's the whole point of this.
Right. But something on that idea, Mickey.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing because, I mean, what would be the way to force them to, I don't know if force is the right word, but to force them to report it? I mean, what would they have to do? Like submit like a monthly or a quarterly or I don't know.
Well, restaurants are required, if they have a year-round restaurant license, I think they're required to request from the select board that they can take the month of, or 2 or 3 weeks or a month off for the season.
Yeah, but I guess, but you could drive by the restaurant and see if it's open. This is something that's a little bit hard to track unless like historically what the usage or the demand or whatever the correct word is has been. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe this thing here with the 18 hours per day, 7 days a week, if that was relaxed, but then built into this was the requirement that there is reporting or whatever you want to call it, of the demand and how many rides they provide weekly, monthly, quarterly, probably weekly, but submit it every 2 months. I don't know. And then we could get an idea of what the demand slash usage is, and then add something in about what the actual requirements are. It seems like you need something, some tangible historical facts or current facts to put in any kind of regulation. But I agree, because yeah, they could get the license and then who knows, do nothing and just wait until the summer and then just, yeah.
So, okay, so they get the accessible taxi license and they provide service mainly to people that are not in wheelchairs, because that's typically the case, correct?
Yeah.
So now this report that you're asking for, is that a report of how many people in wheelchairs that they, or how many times they use the lift? I mean, like,
Yes.
how do we?
I don't know. And then the thing is too, I mean, I hate to be super cynical, but they could make the whole thing up and there's no way that you could ask for the names and addresses.
No.
If we,
I know.
so this seems like a really hard thing to regulate and enforce.
I think it would be, but I'm not even sure the point needs to be that so much as just for those who are willing to, if they're willing to do that, ask them to do it so that we have a better handle on what we're doing and not make it conditional on them. I don't know, it just seems like they might be more willing to do that if they understand, you know, we just need to know what the demand is and would like to know what the demand is so that we can plan for that.
Yeah.
In other words, I don't know that it has to be a, you know, such a big deal that it's a law, you know, that we put it down there, because that's awful hard for them to do. Although do taxi drivers have to keep a list of don't they have to keep a list of the people that they take and so forth? And isn't there something they have to do?
I think they have to, if I read the regulations correctly, I think they keep track of all their fares.
That's what I thought. So
Yeah, but
if they
who,
put a
but who
check
enforces that? Do they have access to this? Like, do the people who would get the license, do they know? Well, I guess another question I have too is, have there been people who wanted to get the accessible license, but say, no, because I can't do it 7 days a week, 18 hours a day? Like, do we even know?
Yes,
There
I had
have,
someone call me before, Mary Beth.
oh,
They-
then maybe relax this, let all 4 get taken, and then see if there are complaints from people who are trying to use, you know, the handicap taxi service, but can't. No one will pick them up. I don't know. It seems like the goal would be to have all 4 licenses taken, right? But
Yes.
Yes.
there doesn't seem to be any way to put anything into this to enforce it unless and until there are complaints. I don't know.
Yeah.
and even then that would be hard, just because, you know, things change for people, and you know, who knows why they you know, can't do it one week when they said they could or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, let's say people are gonna get sick, you know, people are gonna
Yeah,
go on vacation,
Yep.
people are gonna want a weekend off, people are gonna want holidays off. I mean, it's just like what we do, right?
Yeah.
And you know, you have to think that, you know, this here is so restrictive especially if it's a one-person operation, which a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
times.
this definitely makes no sense.
I agree, 100%.
And you know what? And I bet the guy who signed up for the license never paid any attention to it in the first place.
Right.
He couldn't.
Yeah, you might be very right, Georgia. Again, I would have no idea.
Yeah. And
But
Unless it was a zombie or a vampire, then maybe
exactly.
7 days a week, 18 hours a day.
Oh, I know, exactly. But no, I think Mary Beth, you hit the nail on the head. The goal is, let's get these 4 licenses taken. The more accessible vehicles we have out there, the more probability, the better the.
And then
probability.
sort of see what happens. And then
Yeah.
if there is something to complain about, then try to put something in.
Yeah,
And I mean,
because
there's nothing that would stop us from asking them a lot. How many times, you know, in the last 2 months do you think you got a call about it or something? I mean, casual, rather than make it a law or anything.
You know, I think it's a good point, Georgia. I says, I can keep in touch with them. I can get their email or their text. I can get
Yeah.
text, like, you know, this is Brenda. I'm just checking in. Can you tell me how many people that you've driven in the last month or something that uses a wheelchair or needs to use a lift? Because sometimes they use the, or depending on the lift, that most of them are rail lifts, come to think of it. And but yeah, I can totally do that, but this is very restrictive what we have. People definitely see this because when they put out the letter of interest out there, the Ann Simintaro, I think that's how you pronounce her last name, from the licensing department, she puts out the letter to everybody. And what we've done in the past is, like, everybody, say if there's 70 people on the taxi waiting list, that she sends them out to all 70 people and says, and gives them the regulations that you have to operate 7 days a week and 18 hours on demand per day. And let's just say if number 34 wanted it, number 40 wanted it, number 50 wanted it, well, number 34 and 40 would be the first to be offered the license. They can, you know, they don't have to wait for like 1, 2, or 3. It's just like they say to submit the application by a certain date. They look at people have interest in this license, and whoever has the most seniority on the taxi cab license waiting list will receive the license.
Was your use of that number 70 totally random, or could there actually be 70 people?
I think there's more than 70.
Really?
So what they have to do now, Mary Beth, before you used to, like, if you wanted to get a taxi license, you went on the taxi waiting list. But now, and once you put your name on the list, it could be from 2010. Your name remains on the list, okay? But I think now what you have to do, you have to maybe, am I thinking about this right? Maybe you have to
reactivate it or
every
something?
year.
Yeah.
Maybe, whatever, but no, there are about, I bet you there's greater than 70.
There used to be at least 90.
Yep.
But that was a while ago, but I know there were like 92 or something like that years ago. That may have been too long ago, but that's one thing I remember.
Do we have any idea what the normal requirement is for a taxi license? They must have certain hours that they're required to be.
Hold on, I have the regulations in front of me.
Do we know if the majority of these people who are current, forget about the accessible situation, who are current taxi drivers, are they also Lyft and Uber people? Or are we?
Say that again, Mary Beth?
It's interesting, yeah.
I guess, is there a distinction? Well, no one on this list, the 70, let's just say it's 70, with Uber or Lyft, they could do whatever they want right away. So we're just talking about, this is like a town thing, the town taxi license.
Yep.
And do we know if, like, a lot of these people on this town taxi waiting list are already Lyft and Uber drivers? Because if they are, what would be the benefit of being a town taxi driver? I'm thinking out loud. Is it that they want to wait down by the ferry on that line? They want to wait at the airport on that line? Is that, like, I'm just trying to.
That's probably correct, that if you're Uber or Lyft, you can't sit in the taxi space.
Right.
You can't pick up at the airport in the taxi line.
Right.
So I'm sure there's some advantages to being a taxi driver over Uber and Lyft. I'm not sure what they are.
Yeah, okay. Interesting.
Belong to the taxi.
Well, when you have your taxi license, you're your own boss.
Right, true.
You get to say who you want to pick up, who you don't want to pick up. You know what I mean? Like, you have more, you're your own boss.
Right, you don't have to share the money, yeah.
Well, whatever we decide today is going to go through the select board, and they're going to, because they have to approve this change. And, they may have other comments on why, what they're going to want to know why we're making the change. I think it's a reasonable request. I think they're just going to be concerned about the other taxi licenses, that people can't jump the line just to get one of these disabled permit operators, and then, not treated as we want them to, take the winter off or whatever, they just so they can jump the line. So I think they're going to want to have some restrictions on, how often it's being used, and,
Then maybe that's helpful, because then they can sort of provide the parameters of what we're supposed to figure out.
yeah, I'm sure that somewhere in town administration, they have a better understanding of this than we do.
Yeah,
They'll probably offer some suggestions. I'm sure
Right.
they'll understand why we're just suggesting make this change, just to create more demand for them. But maybe there's some, happy medium in between where that somebody will come up with to make it make sense to them.
Yep. So what it has in the taxi cab regulations, this is the regular taxi cab. It says this is under K4. All taxi cabs licensed by the Board of then it should be the Select Board now. The Select Board must be operated during the months of June, July, and August. Failure to do so will result in the revocation of said license, and any license held shall immediately be surrendered to the town clerk. And then number 5 says taxi cabs not operating year-round shall notify the town administrator in advance to cease operating during any portion of the winter months. That's already in the taxi regulations.
Okay, so that would apply to these
Yes,
licenses
because
also.
yeah, because right up here it says accessible taxi cabs shall operate in the same fashion as the current taxi service in the town.
Mhm. So
So
they have to notify.
all the rules for a regular taxi cab applies to the accessible taxi cab license also.
Mhm.
so then I would wonder again how the select board knows if these regular taxi cab license holders aren't working the summer, aren't,
They probably
what-
don't.
they must know something. They must
Can
have
I give
some
you a
way.
suggestion?
Yeah,
The when I was on the Board of Selectmen, which was granted was 20 years ago, there was a lot of feedback from the taxi owners consistently. If somebody showed up not appropriately dressed or didn't show up at all, they knew about it. The taxi drivers keep an eye on each other. They know who's working and who isn't. So, they might go along with somebody, but then again, they might report somebody for not doing what they're supposed to do.
interesting.
that
So it is,
happened
it's like
all
complaint
the
driven.
time. Yeah, it happened all the time. Happened
Yeah.
there was something to do with the taxi drivers. It was a
Interesting.
lot. Yeah. At the time, that was then. So, and I don't know how the new Uber thing fits into it either. So, I don't know how that works. How that would fit in to the process, because I don't know the rules that have been set up for that, which I'm sure there are some.
Okay, so I think we're gonna, what'll probably just end up happening is we'll make a suggestion to change this particular line, number 2.
Right.
Change it to operate year-round. Do we want to add anything more to operate year-round?
That sounds good.
Minimum
I
of,
mean, is it getting just too far in the weeds and too complicated and too convoluted to try to put tiers of whether it's a sole proprietor? But then it's here and people come and go and they quit and they hire more or whatever. But I'm just, again, thinking out loud, is there a way or a desire to put in something about a sole proprietor or a taxi cab license holder with employees? I don't know. I don't know how it works. I don't even know, are they considered employees or are they family members? There's too many unknown variables. So I think I'm shutting myself up while I'm saying it.
I think we're just gonna have to approach this as that we need some feedback from the select.
Yeah.
We want to, instead of making a suggestion as to what to change it to, is that maybe we're just asking the select board to lighten up the restrictions to make it more appealable to other applicants and ask them what, let them control how that happens.
Yeah,
That's good.
me too, yeah.
Vicky, what are you proposing?
Well, we don't get very specific with that. We just make a proposal to the select board that we would like to have the disabled licenses be less restrictive. I mean, just put it very simply in that regard and
Well,
let,
it would be helpful though for them to suggest the year round, just say year round was our suggestion, and if they want to change that, they can.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Give
mean,
them the suggestion, they'll more likely go with it than to start creating their own, I would think.
I agree. You have to tell them that this is what we
But
would come up with, not unless they can come up with something different. This is what we would like. We would like to provide year-round service. Just so, and we'd like to have the 4 licenses taken. And that way we just have more accessible vehicles on the road that are on demand.
Yep. I mean, I think that's
Yep.
easy.
Yep, it's just more like a letter to the select board, not a submission of new regulations.
Right. When I emailed Erica, she says, you have to tell me why you want this. You want to change the regulations, because any change in regulations requires a public it just has to be done at a public meeting, maybe?
Probably.
Yeah, at a public meeting. And so I said, okay, this is why we want to do it. And then she asked me, the commission has to approve this change.
Mhm.
You know, is this what the commission members want? So that's why we had this meeting today. We made sure we had the meeting today so we can get this, move this along to to Erica and Libby.
Yep. All right, so let's just do that. Let's just so maybe we should take at least a vote.
We have to.
So let's get a motion to write a letter to the select board requesting that the section line item number 2 be relaxed to entice more operators to apply for the licenses.
Perfect.
Is there a motion for that?
Yes, I'll
So
make a
moved.
motion.
But should we add something about, making it year round instead? I mean, I think
Yes.
that's
Absolutely.
Yeah, maintaining year-round service.
yes, right.
Yep.
Okay, so Georgia made that motion. Mary Beth, you seconding that?
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Good, unanimous. Okay. That will be done.
yeah, and that maybe also, and I'm sure Brendan, you're already gonna do this, but just say, seeking their guidance with how, based on experiences or whatever the situation is with the regular taxi cab licenses, of how to go about doing this.
Mhm.
Oh, the taxi cab drivers will let you know. They'll let everybody know clearly.
Yes, I'm sure they will. I'm sure there'll be some discussion about it. Everybody will have some ideas.
It's true, because they're very sensitive about this being their livelihood, and I mean, the Uber thing was really tough for them to accept. It was very tough because that's, for some people, that's their main source of income, and it's bad enough with the winter. Not enough people take taxis in the winter and stuff. So anyway,
Yeah, I think probably the people that'll be most concerned about this are the other taxi drivers.
by far, I think that's true. But they may be all for it too, be in favor of it too. I mean,
They still have to buy an accessible vehicle. So that's, not
exactly.
everybody's gonna want to do that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's
Okay, so moving down our agenda, old business, other business update. Brenda, do you have?
Yeah, Mickey, you want to tell them about Lily Pond Park?
Oh, yeah, so Brenda and I met with Eleanor from the land bank, and the engineers that are redesigning the Lily Pond Park from, the entire Lily Pond from up by the parking lot on North Liberty Street all the way down to the other end, down close to Westchester Street. There's one or two other accesses points. One is down pretty close to Center Street down at the end. And there's a path.
There's a path on Lily Street.
There's a path on Lily Street right opposite Snake Alley.
Mhm.
And so there's 3 real access points. And so we reviewed with them their so-called 50% design progress plans. And they, Brenda and I looked at them ahead of time and had some concerns about, not so much up by the North Liberty Street side, but mostly to do with the access down by the Center Street, the end of Lily. So what they're doing is they're going to improve the parking lot. They're going to build brick walks, bricked in areas and walkways around the parking lot. Probably not really change the sides of it too much, but they're also going to connect the parking lot to these 6-foot wide boardwalks running through most of the park, running from the parking area at the moment about halfway into the park, and then that would change to the way their proposal was, to a grass surface. And then there was going to be another boardwalk, maybe 200 feet further into the park, to go through more wetland areas. These are elevated boardwalks to help so that it's not infringing in the groundwater or the wetland. That's not hurting the wetland at all. So they're elevated. So we had a couple of issues. One of them was that why can't you just run the elevated boardwalk all the way through so the 2 boardwalks are connected and it becomes one long accessible surface? And the other was, one of the other concerns we had was at the end they had shown stepping stones from the access down by Center Street to get to the boardwalk, and that's not going to work for wheelchair use. So I think we just wanted to impress on them that we want this entire pathway to be wheelchair accessible to meet the ADA guidelines for wheelchair use, beginning to end, in and out of the park at both ends. And also the path from close to Snake Alley, that I'm not sure what they're going to do there. We had proposed doing the I forget what it's called, but it's a grass reinforcing grid that you place within the ground, and grass can grow through it, but it still leaves a pretty rigid, solid surface that wheelchairs are supposed to be able to traverse pretty easily. So those were our suggestions to try to make it much more accessible than they were doing a pretty good job. It really did look very nice, but there were some holes in it that we wanted to fill in to make it continuous all the way through the park.
And there were some areas where they have like some platforms off of the boardwalk, and they would have benches there, and we just made sure that they had a cutout for a wheelchair to be able to sit next to somebody at the bench. They were very receptive to, the engineers were kind of looking at it from like, I think they took a lot of their guidelines from like the Massachusetts Trails Rules and Regulations or something. I think that's what they were doing. And they also wanted to like, keep some of the rustic beauty of Lily Pond, along in the design. But they were very receptive to the fact that we told them like, our concerns about not having access to certain areas and not connecting the boardwalks. And they even like the 2 entrances on Lily Street, right? They weren't going to they didn't think they had to make them accessible entrances, but they were, once they heard they heard Mickey and myself explain that they need to be accessible. They were just like totally on board with everything. They were very receptive to everything. And so this is like what they call the 50% design phase, where they reach out to all the interested parties, such as us, to get our take on, how the park looks as far as accessibility goes. And then the next thing is the 75%, which we will get plans for again. And when we get the plans, I'll send them out to you. I tried to send the plans out today, but they were like on a, they were expired. If you clicked on the link had already expired to the plans that they were showing us, but it'd probably even be better to show once they do make the changes that we requested. And when they do that, I'll make sure I send it out to everybody so you guys can just review it. And I'm lucky I have Mickey here, so he can really know all the ins and outs of everything, the elevations and everything. So yeah, they were extremely receptive to everything. I think it's gonna be a really nice accessible park, and they have the parking lot right there at North Liberty Street, and they're putting in an accessible space, and the accessible space is gonna abut the 6-foot wide walkway. So they're making the space 11 feet, Mary Beth, and then it abuts right to that 6-foot walkway. So actually it's like 17 feet. So you know, if you want to take Augie to the park, do you have a side entrance, Van?
We do.
Yeah, side entrance, yeah.
You got the lift down, Augie can get out. It's like
Yeah.
it's 17 feet is really great, put it that way.
Alright.
Yeah, we're not familiar. Are you familiar with this park?
No, I'm not familiar. No,
I'm not either.
Yeah, let's see it though, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It seems pretty nice.
It's really a very nice place, and it's,
Yeah,
at the moment, you probably aren't aware of it because it's not at all accessible.
oh,
And,
yeah.
and it's always underwater,
Oh,
Oh.
well, there you go.
very marshy, right?
There you
Not
go.
all of it, but a lot of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, that's why.
I did a wedding there. I've done weddings there.
You know, I was gonna ask if it's a wedding
I've
space,
used, my son got married there too.
because I mean, in light of, I don't know where, I mean, obviously weddings are big business here. And probably there are people who wouldn't want anything that's not wedding aesthetically pleasing to.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure if they allow weddings on that property, the land bank. I don't know if they'd give you permission for a wedding.
I've done them there.
There you go. Well, okay, hold on. Take that back, Brenda. Rewind.
I
Scrap
don't
it.
remember if we checked it out either. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Know if it got checked out first or not, so. We did bring chairs in and had them taken back out again as soon as it was over, so.
Yep. And I'm sure you got all the
Morning.
permission you needed to do that, right, Georgia?
Pardon?
I'm sure you got all the permission you needed to do that, didn't you?
Yes, I certainly did. Everything, just
It-
signed and sealed.
But
Yeah,
is,
right.
but like, is this a place, a park, that if you have a wedding there, that you have to pay a fee?
No,
The land bank owns it, so I don't know what the land bank.
I don't think we paid a fee for, no. I mean, I've done weddings all over the place. We rarely asked about it. We just showed up and did them, so.
I know. I'm saying, I think that's what you did. Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, if you were gonna put up a tent or do something that would, you know, like at the Lily Pond, we had chairs brought in for an hour and taken back out again. You know, didn't see anything. Nothing was messed up at all.
Anybody that watches this meeting,
Yeah,
is gonna send you the fine that, you know.
yeah,
That I was owed.
we're all in
and
trouble. I know, but I've heard that churches charge like 5,000 or more just to
Each
have a
church
wedding
has a
there.
different
So
rate.
I can't believe that a beautiful park would be free, but
Yeah. Well, the beaches are free most of the time. Most beaches.
really?
I've done lots of beaches. I've done lighthouses. I've done streets. Yes. Boats. A lot of places. Yeah. I don't think the churches, you do have to pay because they have to pay for someone to clean up afterwards and so forth. You know, so all the churches have a fee. The Congregational Church used to be a pretty reasonable fee. I don't think it's reasonable anymore. I think it's pretty high. Last I heard, I haven't heard in a while. But yeah, they all charge thousands of dollars to be used.
Mary
Are you-
Beth,
Georgia, I'm just wondering, are you non-denominational? Because in
I'm Presbyterian, but I worked at the Congregational Church for 12 years. So, and I've done about 150 weddings probably.
okay, yeah, I don't know, because
Yeah.
these things are always interesting to me. I'm a recovering Catholic,
Gotcha.
but
Yeah.
was raised Catholic,
Yep.
and you have to get married in a church, like they don't allow. So I just wondered, yeah.
Yeah, I've had real interesting. I had one priest who was a friend, and he did a service with me, a wedding, and we did a funeral together also. But no other priest would do that. So, and they, you know, they're not supposed to do that. And
It's so
I
ridiculous.
did have one couple where the couple both wanted me to do it, but the grandmother wouldn't come to the wedding if it was a woman who wasn't. Yep. So they had to go to the Catholic Church to do it. So he was pissed because he also was a lapsed Catholic and not happy, but his parents insisted the grandmother should be there. So anyway, yeah.
Well, religion
Oh,
is the
yeah.
root of our world's troubles, so it's not surprising.
No.
Yeah.
Someday we were always going to write a book about the weddings because, you know, there have been some just fascinating realities of weddings.
Yeah.
Money spent and, you know, things happening. One bride broke her ankle at the rehearsal, but she limped down the aisle anyway. And I had a guy who had the flu, a stomach bug. So threw up all the night before and he was really pale, but he got through it. I've had brides who laughed through it. I've had brides who cried through it. Just everything is, I mean, it's really quite fun, actually. It's kind of neat.
You ask if anyone wants to object, and has anyone
No,
ever?
never.
Stay away from that.
No. Nope. And I don't ask the father either. I always have encouraged them to ask both sets of parents, not just one, if they will be supportive. Not permission, but supportive.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
That's
All
great.
right.
I
So,
wouldn't.
any other updates?
I
Brenda?
do, I have, so, I received an interesting email yesterday at work, and I would like to reply to this gentleman. His daughter lives here on Nantucket, and I think her name is, can I say her name at an open meeting, right?
Probably not.
Okay, his daughter lives here on Nantucket, and she has minor learning disabilities, but she's very capable of doing a lot of things. She has worked in cafeterias before. She's been a school bus monitor. She presently is working at the Boys and Girls Club as a volunteer. Whatever her duties are, I'm not exactly sure. But her father was hoping that she could get some kind of a paid position, get a job. And was wondering if there was any, is there a program he wanted to know to assist people with disabilities find employment, he sounds like he'd be very grateful to get any or all information that he can. So I was just thinking, I wanted to bring it up at the meeting because we get more input, I was thinking Stop and Shop hires people with slight learning disabilities.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yep. And there's a summer program here on Nantucket, Mickey. Remember about picking up the litter?
Yep.
Picking up the trash at the beaches? It's what is it called?
Is that a paid position though, or is that
It
volunteer?
is. It's a town hires you, and it's $15 an hour.
Okay, good.
So this man on Nantucket, he lives on Matticat Road. He wanted his son loves to pick up. He has I think he's on the autism spectrum, and he loves to pick up litter on the beach everywhere he goes. So he was saying, like, well, how can I put this to good use? So he and a couple of his friends, I think from the school that they go to in the Cape, they started a program, and the town pays for it, and the town gives them a vest, and give Marine Home Center or somebody donates the trash bags and the tongs or whatever they need to pick up the trash. And as far as I knew, when they started the program in the summer of 2022, the parents of the children were the ones that these are like young adults. These are like 18, 19, 20, 21, somewhere in that vicinity. And so the parents of these young adults were actually the ones that were with them on the beaches and would drive them to the beach. Or actually, they could take them to the beach, or the NRTA offers free bus rides for anybody with a disability. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they were going to take the bus too. I mean, this one of the boys and his father live right up here on Matticat Road. So anyways, I was thinking maybe I could reach out to him to see if that program has evolved and they want more people involved in it. And it does. The town was paying $15 an hour. So those are the two things I was thinking of. I don't know if anybody else had any other. I don't know where they can go to. Where else? how do they get it out there that they're looking for employment, you know?
Oh,
I really don't know. I saw your email earlier, Brendan. I didn't have any suggestions. I don't know.
Yeah. But the fathers would be very appreciative. You can just tell by his tone in the email that he'd be very appreciative of like any suggestions or any help in this area, because it would mean so much to his daughter. She's been living here, I think, since last summer, and again, volunteering at the Boys and Girls Club every day.
How old
You know, do you think that the MSPCA would have positions for helping take care of the boarding animals, things
They
like?
don't board anymore at there, but that's a good idea. I know Shauna very well.
They have volunteers I know who walk animals.
It's not called the MSPCA, right? Just it's called Offshore Animal.
Right.
Okay,
Yes. I knew that wasn't the name, but it's, yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
what about the hospital? What about like, say, like, as a greeter or something?
Mhm,
Yeah, okay, I think this is good.
mhm.
We never knew where we're going in that place.
No.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's not starting on the hospital because really teased me off. But anyway,
Yeah,
it's a
the
great-
animal, that's good. Stop and shop.
Yeah.
I was going to say too that if she thinks of something she might enjoy, just ask. There are a lot of places that could use help, but whether or not how much they could pay is the question. I know it doesn't have to be a lot.
Right. Well, her father did give you some where she has worked before, like monitoring buses, the school buses, and in the school cafeterias. She's done babysitting before. She's worked obviously because she's at the Boys and Girls Club, she's worked with children before. And so she has that kind of experience, but
Maybe, another place might be the farms. They might need farm,
oh, that's good.
field work.
But also some of the camps
Mhm.
where she could work with kids, even they always need help.
This is good.
Boys and girls have their camp, the community school, Strong Wings. I think Mariah Mitchell still does a camp too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You could feed the baby shark at the Mariah Mitchell.
I could reach out to the STAR program also, you know that?
Yeah.
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 But just kind of keep this on the front burner. If you think of something, or if you know of something, let me know, because I would love for this young woman to find some employment here. I think we should feel great about making some money,
Mhm.
and the father would be very happy in the meantime, right?
How old she is?
I don't. She's living here on Nantucket. I'm not exactly sure what her living situation is.
Just wondered. I assume she's got
Moved
house.
from New York, and so I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't get. I wanted to have some ideas before I reach out to her dad again. I mean, not reach out to her dad. Period.
Yep.
Okay. So thanks, and I really appreciate this this list that we just came up with. And just one other thing, we met with Drew Patnoy, the DPW director, about like accessibility around making a few places accessible. And on Augie, I call it your crosswalk all the time, just so you know. On Augie's crosswalk there on Broad Street, right at the intersection of Federal Street, they only put in those.
Go use your crosswalk.
Well,
Get.
They only put in like an asphalt temporary ramp,
that's
but
fine.
going to put in a complete compliant curb cut when they are doing the sidewalks in that area. And so that was great. I kind of when I saw the asphalt curb cut, and they're like, well, that's really not going to cut it, And so he said, I'm sorry if I misled you, Brenda. This is all going to be done when we're in that area, whether we're on Federal Street, Broad Street, in that area, we'll take care of that curb cut.
All right.
And he emails me, and then I talked to him about Mid Island, the like curb cuts at the Marine Home Center, and then down by the land bank. There's two crosswalks at the land bank. One of them actually has a bus stop bench to it, and there's two curb cuts. I mean, two crosswalks, but no curb cuts. So
You're talking about the landmark house.
The Landmark House, yeah, I'm sorry, Landmark House.
Yep.
And so we discussed that at the time also. So Drew reached out to me recently and said that there's actually $41,000 of money not spent that was allocated for making accessibility improvements, like in the curb cuts and sidewalks. And they have to use it, I think, by June 1st. So again, what Mickey and I sent pictures to Mickey about that whole island Landmark House area and the Marine Home Center. And so we requested that they put 2 curb cuts in at the crosswalk at Marine Home Center. We requested that they put a curb cut in at the Landmark House. One side does have a sidewalk, the other one is just dirt. Yeah, and so so 1 curb cut there, and then down by the bus stop area at the Landmark House, we asked for 2 curb cuts there. And then there was 1 curb cut just as you cross, is it East Creek Road? Yeah, East Creek Road is where, yeah. When you cross East Creek Road, you from the Landmark House, you step up onto a curb and you're in front of Marine Home Center, in front, you know, beginning their parking lot. It doesn't have a curb cut, so we asked them for a curb cut in there also. So that area will have all the crosswalks with curb cuts, and we'll supply 1 extra curb cut on that sidewalk, which they should have 1 anyway. So anyway, I sent that list to them.
Good.
All right. That is all I got.
Okay, thank you.
I have one quick question. I did look at the website and I'm my membership on this commission, it says is up in 2024. Should I be doing something or waiting for something? in
Oh,
the
a
mail?
good question. I think you have to reapply. Or
They
you have,
usually notify, I've
Yes.
often been notified about this, but if you, Mary Beth, if you don't hear from them in the next, they do the appointments in June, I believe.
correct.
So if you
Yeah.
don't hear from them in the next couple of months, just call, you know, the town admin office. Bill.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm not sure. You know, I can find out what the protocol is. How's that?
okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any other questions or comments or discussion points? I think we're good.
So, good.
Alrighty, well, I'll take a motion for adjourning.
Oh, make the motion to adjourn. Alex,
Aye.
no, say you make a motion to adjourn.
I made motion to adjourn.
All right, thank you, Augie. Is there a second to that motion?
Also,
Very much, whichever.
Okay.
Sure.
All second.
George is seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you, everybody.
Nice weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Guys,
Bye.
updated about these, when they're going to do the public meeting for, to change the regulations, okay? And if we get more interest in the accessible taxi cabs, I hope we do.
Super.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Aye.